What's going on, everyone? You're back with your boy Jono for another quick math lesson. Today we're going to find out the range of a data set. And this is the last basic tool that we can use in order to compare data sets with one another. As we get into higher levels of mathematics, we'll get some stuff that's a bit more nuanced. But at the moment, this is the last one that we really need to know in order to do really well in year 7 and 8 mathematics. So the first three things we've looked at, mean, median, and mode, are all measures of center. But the range isn't looking at this. The range is what we call a measure of spread. And it looks at the highest scores possible and the lowest scores possible. So it's really telling us, hey, what could happen? What are the extremes of this data sets? And a really easy way to think about it is like human height, right? We've got really tall people, really short people. Yao Ming's 7'6", and there are gymnasts that are like 4'10". There's a massive range of human height. But if I said, hey, the next baby that's going to be born is going to be 11 foot tall, you'd probably say, well, I don't think that's possible. So that kind of tells us what could happen in the future. It allows us to predict certain things or certain possibilities of an outcome occurring. So in this example here, we've got two teams that have scored goals. The funny thing about this data set is that the mean, the median, and the mode are all the same. Except you could really say that, hey, Team A looks a little bit more consistent. They've scored 2, 3, 3, 3, and 4 goals. So you could guess what they were going to do next week quite easily. But this Team B, again, mean, median, and mode are all the same. So our measures of center are the same. But they've got one game where they scored 0 and one game where they scored 8. So without knowing the range or the spread possible, you would say that these two teams are identical, but we know that that's not the case. And the formula for finding the range is incredibly easy. All we've got to do is take the highest number and minus the lowest number, so the two extremes. So for that Team A, the highest goals they scored was 4, minus the lowest, which is 2, so their range is 2. And then for Team B, their highest total is 8, minus 0, so the range is 8. And now we could see that even though the measures of center are the same, the range is vastly different. And we could say that Team A is more consistent and Team B is more variable. So one way that I like to think about the range is that the bigger the range, the more variability there is, means that there is more possibilities that could conceivably happen in the future. So having a score that kind of falls away from the measure of center, but still within the range, would be something that you could still anticipate. But if the range is really small and then you get a number super far outside, you couldn't predict for that as easily. So an example that you would use almost every single day is the temperature. What is the range of temperatures on a given day or during a given month? So in this example, we're just looking at a normal week and the temperatures are quite nice. These are all in degrees Celsius. So the lowest temperature here is 17 degrees and the highest is 22 degrees. So the range is just 22 minus 17. So there's a 5-degree range during this week for the temperatures. So this makes it quite easy to predict in the future. You wouldn't predict that the next day is going to be -5. You don't have to bring a big jacket. And on the flip side, you wouldn't think, oh yeah, it's going to be 40 degrees tomorrow. There's no real ramp up. It's outside the range of this data set. So you can be pretty confident predicting the future. A different example would be like in the Sahara Desert. The Sahara Desert gets incredibly hot during the day and then really cold at night. So the range is incredibly large of the temperatures that you would experience. So for this one, we have to take the extremes, the 38 degrees at the hottest part during the day, minus the lowest temperature, which is -3. When we are dealing with these negatives, make sure that you do minus, right? It's the highest minus the lowest. So for this one, it's 38 degrees minus -3. So the range in one day is 41 degrees Celsius. So you would expect it at some point to be 30 degrees. You would expect it at some point to be freezing. So you would dress more appropriately. You would bring different clothes. I hope you guys like this lesson. Again, I know it's pretty cruisy, but just making sure we're on top of how to find the range and what it is actually communicating is a really important skill, just to give you some more information about a data set.